Welcome back to another one of Nathan Bell's commentary videos. Today Nate's going to deal with a personal subject. A friend of Nate's, a good friend of Nate's and a friend of mine, Robert Burley, who passed sadly this year. Nate wants to tell you a little bit about the man, Bob.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about Robert. Bob Burley was my mentor, creative writing mentor provided by the NDIS Creative Arts Service I attend, whose studio I'm at right now, Reliability. I worked with Bob for 2 or 3 years writing my debut novel, Kings of the New Age, The Quest of the Balancing Stones. Bob was my mentor through writing that. Now, unfortunately, Bob died 6 months ago from cancer, and it was very sad because I had hoped that Bob would live much longer into his 80s or 90s, because Bob didn't do any hard drugs in life. He never smoked cigarettes, and he drank alcohol infrequently, and he was very athletic and sporty throughout his life and played sport and was competitive. So you would have thought he would live longer, but unfortunately he succumbed to cancer at the age of about 74 or 75. So I thought he should have lived longer, but he didn't, and that's sad. I went and saw Bob when he was dying, and it was very sad. He couldn't communicate. He knew exactly what was happening. He was very aware, but he wasn't able to speak, and I found it very difficult and traumatic. I spoke to him at length for a while I was there visiting him, and he wasn't able to respond, which I found very difficult, and he died the next day. So that was very unfortunate. Bob supported me to write my debut novel, Kings of the New Age, The Quest of the Balancing Stones, and over 2 or 3 years he offered much advice and guidance about writing stories, and we drove around Newcastle and the Hunter to the different locations where the action takes place in my book, and we planned out the different things that happened throughout the story, and I drew maps, and we drew maps of the city and maps of New South Wales to plan out the adventure that the heroes went on and the different action that took place around the city. And we did research together about nuclear war and the things that would happen, so that I could write a good, compelling, realistic book which people would enjoy. So Bob was a fantastic mentor. And Bob was a prolific writer. He wrote many titles throughout his life, many of which are unpublished. His book, The Japanese Pilot, was published and has sold some copies, and I'd like to encourage people to go online to Amazon and order Robert Burley's The Japanese Pilot. And he wrote another book, Murray Valley, which I sold for him, and I sold about 50 copies of Murray Valley around Newcastle. So there are people in Newcastle who have Bob's writing, they have Murray Valley, and Bob has many unpublished titles which should come out. And if I find myself in a position working with a publisher where I have the power to make it happen, I'll be ensuring that the remainder of the books that Bob wrote do get published, so that the world can enjoy Bob's storytelling. Bob was a great storyteller, and there was talk about turning The Japanese Pilot into a movie, and Bob had a dream that many of his stories would be turned into movies and television series. So if it comes to me that I'm in a position where I can make that happen, I'll be working to ensure that we see movies and television series produced from the books that Bob wrote, because that's what he wanted, and that will be his legacy of entertaining people with great Australian stories. Bob was also a prolific songwriter. He wrote many songs which were recorded here at Reliability, and you can listen to Bob's song which he wrote, Open the Doors, performed by Ezekiel Ox and the Reliability staff members on the Reliability YouTube channel, and you can listen to other songs that Bob was involved in writing on the Reliability YouTube channel. Bob was a contributor to the community. He was involved in charity work. He was involved in community sporting organisations throughout his life, promoting health and fitness. He was a competitive bike rider and won many competitions. Bob was also an English teacher for most of his life. He worked as an English teacher at Gilston Heights Public School, where I attended as a primary school student, and I found out while I was working with him that he had finished up at Gilston Public School only 5 or 6 years before I started going there. So we almost met when I was a child, so it was like we were destined to meet at some point in our lives. Our lives almost crossed paths back then. So Bob gave much of his life to educating children so that they could live a better life, because he knew that education was the key to a good life. And as I said, he worked in many community organisations and charities and sporting organisations to promote well-being in the community. Bob played in many musical bands throughout the years and performed live on hundreds, possibly thousands of occasions around the Hunter Valley and around Australia, and was known as and loved as an entertainer and musician. So as I said, you can go on Reliability's YouTube channel to hear some of the songs that Bob wrote, which were recorded by Reliability, which have great music videos to accompany them now, and we'll be making sure that more of Bob's books come out in the future, and hopefully that they get turned into movies and television shows so that Australians in the world can enjoy the storytelling and literature and art of Robert Burley. So it's sad that Bob died, that he didn't live longer, and I was hoping he would live longer, but he's dead now, and that's unfortunate. So I just wanted to tell you guys about Robert and the work he did in his life around mental health and community. So drop a comment in the comment section about anyone you've lost, and let me know. Thanks, guys.